You're listening to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Farming Your Career podcast with host Dr. Aaron L. Albert, where we explore a variety of healthcare and pharmacy-related topics, including career development, healthcare IT, informatics, innovation, entrepreneurship, STEM, women's issues, and more. Farming Your Career podcast is part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aaron L. Albert.
Jamie, welcome to Farming Your Career.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to have you because we've had so much uptake and interest in the BCMAS certification. We've had Dr. Will Solomon on the show a couple of times, but we really wanted to kick it up a notch and talk to somebody that's out in the world using their knowledge in BCMAS on a regular basis. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we really want you to start with the same question that we start with all of our guests. How did you get to where you are today in your own career?
Okay, well, I absolutely love this question. I ask it of a lot of people in my field because everybody has a completely different trajectory. And it's really great to just curl up and hear about, everyone's experiences. So as a young child, I was really interested actually in forensics. So when I went to college, I was actually a pre-forensic chemistry major. But early on in my chemistry degree, I had a professor that got me interested in research. And so I actually started research my sophomore year in a biophysics lab. And they were looking at small molecule interactions with oncogene promoter regions. So basically drugs that target various oncogenes like BCL2, c-Myc, you name it. And so ultimately, he changed my course. He changed my future through his mentorship and helped me and pushed me to actually get first a bachelor's and then a master's, and then went on to actually get a PhD in biophysical chemistry. So it was, really completely different than where I started. But through that whole process, I really identified I wanted to get, a little bit more clinical exposure. So I did a translational fellowship at MD Anderson looking at small molecules, and ultimately identified those years of being at the lab bench, those years of publishing and presenting data, all the things that I was super excited about were the things that actually took me away from the bench. So it was that, the public speaking, the most recent data that was presented, all the big impacts and the patient wins. And so it was everything about industry that really drew me to an industry role. So an MSL role where you're getting out there, meeting with those physicians, learning about the cutting edge science and seeing how, patients are really impacted. So that's how I ended up in medical affairs, over the course of about 10 years.
Yeah, in medical affairs, we've kind of talked about at a higher level than just, of course, the BCMAS certification. But now you having been in MSL for several years, what provoked you to look into and completing the BCMAS certification since you were already in medical affairs?
Well, actually, I had been an MSL for not quite 4 years. I had the opportunity to mentor a number of new hires. I'd been with a couple of companies. I built up a number of territories, so I had a lot of great experience in the field. I felt comfortable. I really enjoyed helping with onboarding and training, and there was a lot of things that really interested me. But when I saw the course come across, I actually saw it on an advertisement somewhere, and I thought, this is really interesting. I was really starting to delve in and start working with some of our internal counterparts in different functional areas on some different projects, and I really felt like there was still a lot about the industry that I didn't understand, or that, I was still missing, a couple of those connections. And so I wanted to become a little bit more educated in my partners' roles and their function and how we all work together. And that's one of the things I noticed are our field directors, our senior leadership, those people that were people managers that I was really trying to be mentored by. They were able to effortlessly partner and effortlessly articulate the intricacies of these other functional groups. And I wanted to be able to be at their level and kind of understand and have that new perspective of how we work together. And so when this course came along, I thought, this really gives me a chance to potentially connect some of those dots and see where I'm proficient and maybe some of those areas that I could potentially work on for some of my future goals.
Yeah, when we had the other podcast episode with Will kind of walking through the different modules, I was really impressed by the fact that it almost gave you different opportunities for a career path within the pharmaceutical or biotech industry. So to your point, I think, even for MSLs that may have been in the field already, going and kind of back through the curriculum and identifying the blind spots or the areas that you could potentially develop within those partnerships in the industry, I think is really important and relevant to current MSLs who are considering the BCMAS certification as well. So let's fast forward to you pushed yes on the button and you decided to do it. How long did it take you to complete the BCMAS certification, and were you working full time?
Yes. So, I think it's a little variable. I'd say roughly 3 months in total. So as you mentioned, yes, I was working. And during that time, I'm leading a major medical meeting. I'm traveling for work. I do have 2 young children, a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. My husband and I were building a home. So there was a lot going on. But the course, it was so enjoyable and thorough and digestible. Each one of the modules, it really made it so I could devote a specific amount of time on each one of the subjects and really put it in, when I was traveling, I'd be able to pick it up on my iPad when I was home and had a break. And so it really worked out well with my schedule. So it probably took me a little bit longer than maybe your average person with everything else that was entailing. But it was very doable. And like I said, probably about 3 months, but that's not devoting a large amount of time every week to it either.
So if you had to do it over again, would you suggest to future students to kind of spread it out a little bit more? Would you do anything differently, I guess?
So I am a planner, and I made a schedule ahead of time. And, with all of the things that happened in life, I didn't quite stick to my schedule. And so admittedly, I would say yes. Devote time to it. Give yourself a little bit more extra time than you had planned. I would say, take the 3 months. Go back. I found myself going back to some of the modules, re-reviewing them. And even now, it doesn't quite answer your question, but even now I've gone back to some of the modules now that I've had some experience and I've gone through it. And then, things are coming up in my current work life. I go back and it's like a refresher. And so admittedly, I'd say yes, make a schedule, plan a little bit more time than you might have. Don't rush through it. Take your time, really digest the information, and I think it's very valuable, but it's still reasonable to do.
And so what modules within the BCMAS certification resonated with you? I know you'd already been an MSL, but were there any kind of eye-opening segments of the certification for you?
There were, so one that I really enjoyed the most was actually the diagnostics industry module. And so having that introduction, I'm in a pharmaceutical company. We didn't really have that diagnostic component, but that's something that's growing in our field. And so to really see have that introduction to see what the supporting healthcare providers looks like in patient decision making from a diagnostic and a device perspective and how they're classified, that really ultimately was the most interesting. And it's really helped me in my current role. And a couple of the other ones that kind of stood out to me, like one example was the advisory board. So as an MSL, you participate in quite a few advisory boards and you get some overview of what that might look like from your company, but nobody really, devotes a course or takes a deep dive. And I thought that was the most impactful for people that haven't been in MSL before, even if you're just starting in industry. That's something I think that sometimes gets looked over by a couple of the companies that I previously worked with, is having that background. But for me, my favorite was the diagnostic one, but all of them were really great and beneficial.
Interesting. And so how has the BCMAS certification helped you with your own career development? Is it just connecting some dots? Anything else?
You hit the nail on the head at first. So I was connecting the dots. It also helped me identify my current strengths and make me feel really confident in some areas, but also some future areas of interest. Like there are like that diagnostic piece or a couple other areas that I really got interested in. And, now I'm gravitating towards or talking to my senior leadership about participating in other projects that I, hadn't expected before. So it's like this other tool, in my toolbox supporting all of my future goals, especially in people development, understanding like how to speak to people, how to broach some of these subjects with others. And so I really think it's helped me in the last 6 months.
So what advice do you have for twofold? One, the professional that maybe is never been exposed to medical affairs and is on the fence about the BCMAS certification. And then secondly, that professional that, like you, has already been in field-based or medical affairs for a certain period of time and is on the fence about BCMAS.
Okay, yeah. So in regards to the first question, so someone new to medical affairs, and I've actually, shared this with a number of people that I've mentored that have been, interested in transitioning into industry. I've had some people reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll have conversations with them. And I share this with them because I think this is the area where the course has the greatest impact. Those people that are really excited to break into industry, they're doing a lot of work. They're out there making sure their LinkedIn profiles, up to date. They're networking. They're listening to podcasts like yours and other podcasts. They're refining their resume, building their skill set in their current role to align with the MSL role. They're doing all these things, but I really feel like this BCMAS course is an advantage. It's your step up because sometimes you think but you have no idea. I know that's an old adage, but it gives someone a leg up. It really provides someone with those core competencies, an introduction to the major players and functional groups in industry. I feel like if you were to compare someone, I've helped with interviewing people for new roles within our company as well. And I feel like if you compare someone with or without the course, I feel it gives them a leg up because it gives them that 30,000 foot overview, a broad understanding, a good, strong foundation, or a really strong framework of kind of what to expect. And then the employer, the future company, has something that they can build upon. So I think, I think this person, those that haven't had MSL experience, I think they're the most that could benefit from this. But then in regards to those that have been in medical affairs, I've suggested this to a number of colleagues because I really think it's threefold. We've already kind of touched upon this. So in regards to educational gaps, it really helps you identify, hey, where can I get a little bit stronger? Who can I reach out to maybe help me improve in this selected area? It can also be used as a benchmark. So if you're that person that goes through and takes this course and you breeze through every single one of the modules and you pass with 100% the first time, it just really exemplifies that you're well trained and you demonstrate what it means to be a high performing, medical affairs specialist that's now board certified. And I think that's great. So you can use it as a benchmark. But third, most excitingly, that we kind of touched upon was, I think that opportunity for personal growth, and to identify your abilities and your future interests, so you passed with flying colors, but did one stand out with you that you were really interested in, it gives you that opportunity to pursue like a stretch project or, a development project, or maybe even change your future career goals. So I think, even for someone that's already been in medical affairs, there's 3 different ways that they could really impact their future career. And it just allows for a lot of growth.
Yeah, the challenge with the MSL role in the past that I've heard a lot when coaching individuals, at least on the pharmacy side, is it's kind of this career cul-de-sac. So your options seem somewhat limited. You're either going to stay in the field forever, you're going to have to move to home office sometimes to go up. But I love that this BCMAS opportunity and kind of like poo-poo platter, if you will, of options within pharma and biotech allows people the opportunity to kind of safely learn about different areas within pharma without having to maybe move across the country to go to home office to learn more.
Completely agree. And I like how you said that cul-de-sac, because I really did feel like this course was kind of invigorating. It got you excited again. It makes you think of that person you were before you were in industry and all the endless possibilities you think of. I feel like this kind of reignites that fire and gets you excited again. So
yeah, maybe it's health economics and outcomes research. Maybe it's regulatory affairs. I mean, there's so many different modules within the BCMAS. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So thank you for providing your insight, Dr. Dettler-Leonard. We really appreciate you coming on the show today. How can people find you online and connect with you?
So actually, you can just find me as Jamie Dettler-Leonard on LinkedIn. That's pretty much where I'm at. I don't have anything else exciting going on.
Well, sounds like you're a busy mom too. So there's a lot going on there. So are you ready to answer a few questions in our speed round?
Absolutely.
Okay. What books are you reading right now?
So currently I'm actually finishing up and, going over a couple of chapters in The Power of Full Engagement by Jim Lair and Tony Schwartz. So that actually there's a number of myself and a number of our team members are actually going through this book together and kind of learning, about the intricacies of how you perform based on your energy and how that really impacts your performance. And it's been a really good read, and it's really impactful and eye-opening, and it focuses on, lifestyle and diet, and not in the aspect of losing weight or gaining weight, but from the perspective of energy. How do you have the most sustained and prolonged energy through everything that you do, work and personal life?
Interesting. I'm going to have to pick that one up.
Yeah, it's great.
What is your best time saver or work hack?
Oh, so best time saver / work hack. I do live by my Outlook calendar. I have it fully color coded. Everything's fully organized. That's one thing that I do. I do like OneNote. I've been recently transitioning over into OneNote, and so everything is highlighted and linked. OneNote and Excel, I don't think they're necessarily like groundbreaking or earth-shattering, but everything I do is color-coded and very organized and tabbed. So if I didn't have that, I don't think I'd be able to function.
And last but not least, the question we always leave with, what is your best career advice that you ever received?
So this one's kind of tough because you get a lot of great advice along the way. But one thing that's kind of grounded me, especially with the family, and especially with a lot of opportunities that's in industry, I had a professor say to me, if you want to do what you love, you have to be willing to live anywhere. And if you want to live where you love, you have to be willing to do anything. And so that really has stuck with me when I'm prioritizing about the importance of my career and my family. And it really helps you put into perspective what you need to do and where you need to go and what it'll take you to get there. So that's just one.
Yeah. Well, with that, Dr. Jamie Dettler-Leonard, thank you for being part of Farming Your Career.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. It's been so much fun.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Farming Your Career podcast, part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. If you have ideas or comments for Erin, be sure to contact her through Twitter. Follow her at Erin L. Albert. And remember to keep your career growing.